I saw a YouTube comment posted on our Cribbage subreddit the other day that someone shared, and it just made my mind explode. And I couldn't let it stand as it was, so here's my response to that comment. It went something like this, and you'll see it pop up on your screen. It says, "You just need cards to make the most points. Strategy doesn't count for a lot in this game. The dealer is luck, the up card is luck, and as a consequence, the crib points are luck. The only strategy is knowing the cards to discard, and to a very lesser extent, the order in which you play the cards." Oh, now, I'm not sure if this person made a comment just because they were frustrated that they kept losing and felt like there was no way to get better, or if they were just being a troll, someone who just says something to get a rise out of people. You know how people on the internet can do that, and they can be like that, but not you. Not you, dear viewer. You are the pinnacle of intelligence and kindness. And you know what? Especially the subscribers. If you're a subscriber, you are just the creme de la creme. And if you're not a subscriber, you better get in there and subscribe. That way you make sure you are in the creme de la creme too. And what they're really asking here is cribbage more of a game of skill or luck? Or both, and how much of both? So obviously the answer is both. It's luck and some skill. They're saying that the strategy is very minimal, and I have an issue with that. Luck, yes, they're right. Luck does come into play. Who gets the dealer? Whoever's dealer first, they do have an advantage, because on average, it takes 9 hands to get to the end of the game, and if you're alternating deals, that means that the dealer has an extra hand that the non-dealer typically does not have. So that is luck. And the up card, cut card, starter card, whatever you want to call it, that card is in fact luck. Raz, who's a Life Master, Cribbage Hall of Famer, and all that awesome stuff, he's great. He tells a pretty funny story about how, he jokes that if I could just improve my cutting skills, I would win so many more games. And so he talks about practicing cutting for hours and hours and hours, and he just can't ever seem to get any better. That's true. That is luck. That is totally luck. And those are the main, and the cards you get for your hand, those are another main aspect of luck. And they have a huge impact on the game, but that's where the luck stops. Strategy comes into play at that point. Strategy comes in 3 main places. And yeah, he nailed, whoever this is, the commenter, they nailed the first one, which is the discard strategy. The 2 cards you throw, whether you're the dealer or the non-dealer, and getting the optimal discard is in fact really important. And that is probably the biggest part of strategy as far as moving the needle goes in general. It's true. So if all you had to do was just memorize the optimal discard for every single hand possible in the game, you would just max out the skill, right? So it's just a matter of memorization. Not strictly true, because these other 2 areas come into play, and they're a lot more strategy than luck. And the second one is pegging. What cards do you throw? There is no mathematical best choice in a pegging hand. You kind of have to get a read on your opponent. You have to feel where you are with your hand and how you're going to respond, and you kind of have to read the other person's hand. There's skill in reading the other person's hand. If you're the dealer and the non-dealer lays down a 10, you kind of can assume that they have a lot of 10 cards and maybe some 5s in there, or cards that add up to 5. You can assume that, but then again, maybe if you're the non-dealer in that situation, you lead a 10 specifically to throw them off what the more valuable cards in your hand are. There's a lot of skill in that and a lot of strategy. And it drives me nuts at the end of that says what are the exact words? I can't even. Okay. The only strategy is knowing the cards to discard, and to a very lesser extent, the order in which you play the cards. I would completely disagree. It is not a very lesser extent. In fact, I would say that most games that are hard fought are won in the pegging phase, knowing which cards to play in what order. So that's what anyway, shake it off. Okay. The third place that strategy comes into play is my weakest area as of now, and that's knowing your board position. What you throw and how you peg, and just generally how you play, changes based on where you are and where your opponent is on the board. At a very rudimentary level, if you're within 10 of the end of the game, you might just completely ignore the points in your hand to a certain extent and go for cards with the greater pegging value. That is strategy. That is not just knowing which cards to throw in, just which cards to play in order. No, that's like a main strategy. I can't tell you how many games I've won and how many games I've lost because somebody knew that part of the game and they chose the right strategy to win. So there's luck, big part of the game, and there's the strategy we talked about. But how much is in each? And I don't have an exact answer, so I'm going to defer to some of the experts on this answer. Dylan Colvert talks about this. Raz talks about this. Dylan Colvert, if you don't know, is like considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest, cribbage players who ever played. Raz is awesome too. He's a life master, Hall of Famer, all that stuff. And the Cribbage Forum, I'll put a link in the description below. Cribbage Forum does an excellent part in talking about this. So all these people, they kind of agree on the same thing. And they say something like, 67%. It's like 2/3. It's the 2/3 to 1/3 rule. So like the top third of games you play, you're going to win automatically. No matter what you do, you have great hands and your opponent has junky hands and you're just going to win. Awesome. But on the flip side, there's a third of games that you're going to play that you have no chance. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. You're going to lose those games. You have junky hands and your opponent has great hands. But then there's a middle third. In the middle third, luck affects it in some way, and it might make it really difficult to win, but it's possible if you play better. And there are some that make it really easy for you to win, but your opponent has a chance to fight and fight. And then there are some that are in the middle there that are the really fun ones where it's just like basically the luck for both of you is even, so it's all skill at that point. That's kind of the general rule, and the statistics kind of back this up. If we look at someone like Dylan Colvert, who was known as one of the greatest of all time, he had a track record on the tournament trail, which means the official, like ACC, American Cribbage Congress, winning percentage. According to that, his percentage of winning on the very competitive tournament trail was 58.1%. 58% of the time he won. If the game was pure luck, you would expect that number to be more like 50%. But if the game was pure skill, you would expect it to be way higher. I mean, considered one of the greatest players of all time, right? Now, okay, so they're on the competitive side of things. Let's look at Raz. Raz is another awesome player. Now, Raz says that on the tournament trail, he bats about 56%. That's what it is. 56%. Raz bats on the 56% side of things. Okay? He's considered one of the greatest players of all time. Now, that makes me think that maybe it could be a little bit more, that luck plays a really big role. But you got to remember, these are competitive players, because he also said that when he plays on the grassroots or local tournaments with people who are good, but not like national level stuff, all of a sudden his rate goes up to like 59%, closer to 60. Now, if you're playing online, you can even find people who have a higher ranking of like 60 to 65%. If they're playing online. And online generally has the lowest quality of play, but it's super fun to do. And so you're like, I don't understand. If better players tend to have higher percentages, that means that luck does have to play a good role. And so how do you measure that? It's the general accepted thing is that 2/3 to 1/3. 2/3 luck, 1/3 skill, and then some combination therein. The better and more skilled you are, the more often you will win. And so what I think happens when people, and I've done this too, is that when you get in these bad luck streaks, you start to just feel like luck is the only thing that determines the game. It's not. It does have a big determination on it, but it's not purely that. And so any cribbage player who loves to play cribbage and wants to play it over and over again just has to accept you are never going to win every game. You're not even going to win a vast majority of games. You're just going to edge your percentage up over time as you get better and more skilled. Now, this is totally different than a lot of other card games, and it's different than a lot of board games too. But in cribbage, that's just not the case. You're still going to win, you're still going to lose, and it's just part of the game. And I think where this comment came from, unless they were being a troll, was that frustration with luck just keeping them down at that time. So when it comes to cribbage, you have to accept it is luck and it's skill. And if you want to learn more about the skills of cribbage and getting better and what that looks like, you should follow my YouTube channel, because I'm trying to get better all the time, and the things that I'm talking about are ways that your skill can have an impact on the game. So if you want that and you want to learn stuff like that, make sure you subscribe and watch those other videos. And hey, by the way, speaking of pegging being super important, here's a video on pegging and basic pegging strategies. Until next time, keep on playing.